speaker circuit?
Well, it kind of happened in a weird way. I started speaking, it was kind of strange, because after my business club, we moved to Las Vegas. And we moved to Vegas. I talk about it in the Millionaire book. I continued the business club. I moved it to Las Vegas, and this guy was trying to get with my sister. So he met her and he was like, yeah, you know, why don't you come out to this, you know, the show, and I'm working the show. You know, he's trying to make himself big time. I'm behind the scenes. He really was. He was behind the bar. But anyway, he said he was behind the scenes. And so anyway, he invited us out to this live television show. My grandmother always taught me, walk up to everybody because nobody is better than you. She said everybody puts on their pants in the morning one leg at a time unless they jump in them. So I saw a lady walk by. I said, oh, she looks important. So I walked up to her and said, nice to meet you. And I created these little business cards. And I put $5 in the machine and spit out business cards. And I gave her my card and shook her hand. And she looked at me and said, okay, you know, what do you do? I still have a business club with my friends. And I said, we meet every week and we talk about entrepreneurship. And we've raised $15,000. And she said, stop. I'm the producer of a show called Backstage Live. I want you on next week. We usually interview celebrities, but I want to interview you. Well, she had me on the next week. They received so many calls and letters. Who was he? Oh, he was great. You got to have him back on. That they made me a guest co-host weekly at 9.5 years old. Now, of course, most of the emails and letters and stuff came from my grandmother. That's not the point. I got the job. So I became a guest co-host. So now at that point, people are saying, okay, you created a business club, you've raised money, an investment club, you're a talk show host. At that point, then the phone started to ring. And the producer of that show then put me on NBC. And then from there, people started calling, will you come speak to our group? And then another opportunity came from there. I was asked to be the president of, it was called Ralph, the Roswell something so long ago. Anyway, they asked me to be over the kids club for the Roswell, New Mexico. Do you remember when the spaceship crashed, supposedly crashed? I don't know. So some of you may catch me in a movie when I was like a little kid, probably about, I think like, yeah, about 11, 12. And it's called 6 Days in Roswell. So anyway, I became, you know, the way I think. So when I became the president of this kids club, what I did from there was I created, I approached, which is a picture of the gentleman that I decided to work with. I called him and I pitched prepaid calling cards because they were hot back then. I said, well, since I'm the president, I could put these aliens on the cards, but you need to put up the money. So I was convincing him. I said, you put up the money to produce these cards because this is what you already do. So I convinced him to cut a deal with me. What did I sold over 50,000 calling cards during that whole Roswell, New Mexico thing. So that was the next business. So people wanted to know, wait a minute, prepaid calling cards. Then I cut a deal with a NASDAQ publicly traded company. People were saying, wait a minute, we need to talk. And then at that point, I started making more money. Then I started investing in silver, which I'll talk about momentarily. So I started investing in like silver. My goal was to one day invest in gold. So things just started growing for me. I started making more money, and then I started raising more money for my investment fund. Then I raised about $300,000. Then from there, I opened up an office on Wall Street. I was about 13. That was an awkward experience. Wow, that was different. A lot of people wouldn't even talk to me on the elevator. They were just like, who is this black kid on Wall Street? You know, you need to go. I mean, I even heard that several times. Get these black kids out of here. Unfortunately. So anyway, then from there I raised $1 million. Then I came up with the idea of creating a food company called Far Out Food. My grandmother used to make our syrup for us because we were too poor to afford syrup. So she used to make it, and I could always cook. I love cooking. And that was my passion, was cooking. So I made a strawberry syrup. Then I created a strawberry vanilla pancake syrup. And I got a book called From Kitchen to Market, did over 1.5 million in sales, and I flipped the company for over $1 million. Now some people say, well, how'd you do that? Simple. I had a whole Rolodex of business professionals with my business club. So there were already people in the food industry, and I started picking up the phone and networking with them. I said, well, I've just launched a food company. Can I get a meeting with you? And then and then things lead to things. I met with Dr. Thomas Haggai, who's the CEO, I believe he's retired now, of IGA grocery store. He said, you know what, young man, I love what you're about. And he used to always send letters and donate his books to my business club when we were here in Chicago. He said, I'll help you start a food company. In fact, let me call my buddies. And he called Stedman and Graham and called this one and that one and Oprah and this one. He said, I want you to meet Farrah. So I was walking into rooms and opportunities that I had no idea what they actually meant at that time. So then from there, he made some introductions, and I went to the Food Marketing Institute convention, FMI, which takes place at the McCormick Place. I think now it's every other year. And I just started introducing myself to people, passing out product sheets about my syrup. Hi, nice to meet you. I didn't have a booth. There was a gentleman in my book I talk about pretty bad too. He actually promised me, he said, oh, I'm gonna, and I say in my book, last, most people said last, not least, I said last and least. I want to thank people that made promises they didn't intend to keep. So they're last and least. So he told me, I'm gonna get you a booth at the Food Marketing Institute convention. And he called me up in front of all these people, everyone clapped, because a lot of people will say what they're going to do for inner city youth and don't do anything at all. So he flossed, and everyone just thought he was this benevolent, philanthropic individual, and he wasn't. So he strung me along until it was too late to get a booth. Okay, I went anyway. I had my product sheets, and the corporations were sitting back looking angry. They said, wait a minute, he doesn't have a booth. Why is he here passing out product sheets? Oh, next step was, they called the police. They called the Pizzo, Lizzie's on the brother. So now, other blacks, see, I was embarrassing us, because you see the police hauling me out with all my stuff in hand, because I went anyway. And that's what, like I said, you have to get out there and push past your stopping point. Because most people say, oh, he won't get me a booth, I can't show up. But the sales and the people and the relationships, yes, they told me and my flyers to sit on the curb. Came back the next day and did my thing again and didn't get in trouble. And it was there where I was able to secure many of the orders and connect with the Walmarts and the Joe Oscos of the world, and that's how that started.